Hello. Welcome to another episode of the Casually Serious podcast, hosted by me and my friend Abhinav Siddharth. And today we have a special guest, Anirudh Devaiya, joining us all the way from Buffalo, New York, from one of my favorite libraries in my university. And so Anirudh, go ahead, introduce yourself.
So, hello everyone. I am Aniruddh Devaiya. I'm going to be a senior next year. I'm majoring in electrical engineering at University at Buffalo, and I connected with Fazal back in fall 19 when he was stuck at the airport, and that's how our we made a connection, and yeah, now I'm looking forward to this podcast thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I think before we begin more seriously, I think now that I just want to know, since you're pursuing your undergraduate in USA, and what a bit more about your major, electrical engineering is your major. I learned from Fazal that you were able to coax your way into carving a whole niche degree for yourself, trying to take the kind of credits that you wanted to take, right? And I think this is something which is very flexible in USA. I think I wanted to know a little more about that. So let's have your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so when I started as a physics major, and to be honest, when I came here, my first goal of the first semester was just to know, okay, what the hell is this? How does a university work? What it makes that can give us a degree and all that thing. And I think after first semester, I was pretty, I knew most of the stuff, how it worked, what things I need to complete in order to get a degree, and most of the information was available online, so I didn't have to reach out to someone from academia or some faculty member or something. So after that, so there's just one thing that at UB you can find on their website that okay, there are this fixed number of courses that you have to take in this somewhat this particular pattern that they have given, the flow sheet they call, and one has to follow that flow sheet. So a flow sheet is basically in their very first semester, these are this 5 courses that they recommend you to take, and so similarly in each semester there are around 4 to 5 courses and around 18 to 20, no, not 20, but 15 to 18 credits, let's say, and that's how the degree system works here. And after then, I was I knew that physics, so I was interested in cosmology, but at the same time I first wanted to build my career in to tackle the climate change, you can say, or build my career in sustainability. So that's why I tried to know what are opportunities here at UB, and there were so many things, to be honest. There was a platform where you can design your own degree with help of faculties, and at first I was totally interested in that, but then after talking with a couple of departments, they said having doing a degree which is already offered by university has much more benefits. And there were other things so electrical engineering is accredited, whatever the word is, by ABT, which is basically it's a standard that most of the US company they require. So that's why I I didn't build my own degree, but I just selected electrical engineering because of the flexibility it gave me, and because I already finished a couple of physics courses in my very first 2 semester. So most of those well-defined flow sheets were already उतना वो नहीं था कि हाँ मुझे वो fixed path लेना है, because some of the stuff I already did it, and some of the stuff was
Prerequisites were done basically.
Yeah. And you can say it was kind of a luck, or like it just happened so coincidentally that I finished all of my physics courses in my very first year. And so it just helped me to take like all the different, even like senior year courses in my second semester, and then like graduate level courses in my third and fourth semester. So it was fun. So that's how like it all started. And yeah, that was the main, yeah, that's how like I kind of like I was able to, and I am able to kind of like finish in my 3 years. So yeah.
Right.
So you are able to like. So I think from what I learned from what you just mentioned was that you try to shift your degree to a more flexible degree towards an electrical engineering course, which is accredited, which is I'm not very well versed with that word, but I think it's recognized with the American employers, from what I understand.
Yeah, like the
And then-
standard. Yeah.
Okay, the standard is accepted. So further on, I think because of the overload of credits that you're taking from the last many semesters, you were able to finish off your degree within 3 years instead of the stipulated 4 years or something. Yeah, I think now that you mentioned something on the lines of climate change and sustainability, what is your like? How is your take on that? Like, how do you plan on, since this is such a broad topic and at the same time such a deep topic, because you cannot, there's just so much to explain the layman person about what it is to understand sustainability. There is the sustainability can come in terms of veganism, it can come in terms of industrialism as well. So how do you approach this when you're trying to explain it to a layman person? Yeah, especially these two topics. Yeah.
I really like don't explain to someone. It's just that I mean climate change is happening, and my main interest in how it evolved was like, so yeah, like I think during my high school, I'm a person who kind of like you used to watch a lot of like documentaries, and there were just so many documentaries back then. I watched like around 4 to 5 different documentaries, and I just like, okay, there's a big problem and there's a big opportunity. It's not just a problem. And so that's how like I just felt like there was so many potential in there. I mean, if you can build a renewable energy source that you can market, like that's your game. If you can do that, you already like you can win and you can be like successful and all that.
Yeah, you solve the problems of the world, and I get it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why like I then changed to physics to engineering, because like that's what engineers do. They apply science and to solve problems. And the electrical engineering was because like it has so many different courses that was related to my thing. For example, photonic device, which is about like solar cell and all that. Then, so that's why I took electrical engineering. But back then, so I don't usually like teach people that, okay, climate change is happening and all. Like I really don't give a shit if they don't. All my main intention is to, okay, there's a problem, there's an opportunity, and let's just try to fix it as an engineer.
Right.
So
I have a question. So you told how is it still what you're pursuing? Is it still related to the climate, or is it still related to the sustainability part?
Yeah, I'm like more focusing on like the product that I want to. I won't say I want to create, but like I want to find because like now even like solar cells are not that efficient, and the grid, and I mean if you look at all the technical aspect of it, so I feel like there is opportunity, and that's what I am like trying to learn right now. For example, I'm going to take a energy storage course next semester, and that's again of a graduate level. So that will kind of like energy storage course in general.
Okay.
Yeah. And that course will kind of like give me a whole not just overview, but like everything, I guess, in depth for energy storage. And yeah, so like that's what I'm trying to do right now, to kind of like understand all the basic things, and then probably in my master's I'll go deeper on like what particular things. So right now there is like a heterojunction solar cell that I want to research, then a bit in energy storage, and
Right.
then like other life cycle assessment of like different energy systems and product design. So yeah, those are like topics that I still want to kind of like explore or go in depth in my masters.
Right. I just realized half of the words that you used went full toss over my head.
I know. He's
But
talking such high level stuff. It's
yes, it's crazy. But if someone asks you, what is your degree? Like, what in specific words? How would you define it as for yourself? Is it? Do you
That's
just
what
say
my-
electrical engineering and just clear it off, or how do you do it?
Yeah, when I told my dad that okay, I like my official degree name is like Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering, and my dad used to like, so okay, are you going to be a technician or what in a big company or something? And I'm like, no, that's what everyone feels, right? I mean, if you just talk about that, but the thing is like I'm more on the research side. Like I want to. So in my bachelor, I think my main concentrations would be first automation and robotics, and other thing would be photonics.
Right.
And so what's you would know like automation and robotic basically can like just make something that can do by itself
But that is also
without
the
any.
that is also the part of the reason why you chose university at Buffalo, because it was more of a research-based university, right? Rather than just doing the courses and getting graduated. Is that one of the
Yeah.
reasons?
Yeah, it was like so. I mean, as I mentioned, I like I admitted as a physics major. So my main goal was to like there were like back then like this is what I told to my visa officer, that I want to work with this particular doctor, let's say X, in the physics department, and I am interested in like cosmology and thing. But I think like after first semester, I kind of realized, I mean, I knew that I wanted to go in renewable energy, but cosmology was something that was like that still fascinates me. Cosmology is like studies of stars and galaxy and all that.
Yes, this much I can relate to.
Yeah. So yeah, so basically, I mean, I didn't know, but yeah, I knew that I would be doing research and all that. So that's why that was one of the reason. And yeah, the other reason would be like financial and all those different aspects.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think one of the other things that I used to, I think everyone here in our batch at least, or anyone who knows you admires is how easy was it for you to take anything that does not work for you, let it be financially, economically, or whatever, and then you've made it in a way that is comfortable for you as a student. Like some of the things, I'll give you an example. Like for a freshman student, Abhinav, for a freshman student in university at Buffalo, you are required to stay in dorm rooms, right?
Okay.
And because you're the first year student, you also have to take meal plans provided from the schools. There is no exception. Okay. But the only person who I knew back in the time who had both of them not according to the rules was Anirudh. So how do you manage to pull the strings over? How do you do it? Is it just go to the office and then they'll do it for you? Or how hard is it? Or how easy it is that people don't realize that you could do these things,
Kind of. I mean, like the basic idea is like, if you want a thing, like if someone will say, like, it depends on like how strong you want a thing. For example, let's say Fazal, you want to become an architect. And let's say like, even if your whole family say you won't be a good architect.
Right.
Like it depends on the drive, right? I mean, but I'm not like, let's just not talk about meal plan because it was just a small thing. And I'm like, okay, I don't eat. Yeah. I was like, I don't eat stuff. And most of my meals are like, I just buy water bottles and that just like, so as a climate activist back then, I was like, so that just produced so many plastic and I don't want to do that. And they're like, okay, we will give you this flexibilities. And then even though like it's just a matter of like being persistent and like it depends on how much you want that thing.
Right.
So the other thing would be like, let's say this overcredit semesters, like back in my second semester, I was a freshman and like generally freshmen are only supposed to just take like around maybe like maximum 20.
Yeah.
And I was just being so persistent. I literally like argued with my advisor that like, what's the problem? I can do all the things. I will manage to have a decent enough GPA and like what. And she was like, okay, first finish these courses and do well in these courses. I'm like, okay, how much grade you want in these courses? And she was like anything more than like B plus is like really good. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay. And basically I did that. And then I
I'm
literally
the
like,
person who gets more than A. What are you talking? It's like that.
it was freshman. Like if you're coming from India. So here's one more thing that I would like to share.
Yeah.
If you do the state board of India, if you are able to do well and if you are able to like cross that barrier of like 12 science in, let's say, any state board, then pretty much like the first year. So I feel like the first 1 year was like pretty much the revision. Like most of the courses, like 65% of the things or 70% of the things was a thing that I already knew.
Right.
So
Okay.
that was like a big kind of like a motivation for me that I don't want to just study the things that I already knew.
Right.
So all the things that I already knew, I just want to like finish it, and all the other things. So that I usually do in my semesters, like, so usually like out of 22 credits, I would say like 12 of them are pretty easy for me, and other 10 were like challenging or like were stuff that was new to me and I was interested in them.
We used to be the type of people, our group used to be the type of people who were like, I got 15 credit. I took 15 credit system. It's so hard, bro. I was like, "Arey, tu kya 15 diya? Main tu 17 diya, aap bol." Then someone used to be, "Anirudh, pata hai kitna diya? Anirudh to 20 liya, bhai, 20 liya." Like that. ये ऐसा था भाई. And he was like, भाई वो तो ये अपना competition है. वो खुद का competition बना के वो ही compete कर रहा है. It's like that.
So yeah, coming back to the point, I think one thing what I was very curious, inquisitive about Anirudh was, being brave enough to take a lot of hatke rehne ka hai, wo matlab he's done the kind of he's taken the road not taken of doing these many number of credits in a single semester, and then going through the process. I think that process is it's intellectually challenging. Let me admit that. But then there's also the other thing, which is like the non-academic side of pursuing your undergraduate in a very inferior country, right? You must have had this conversation with yourself, thinking, "Ki abhi, right? I'm pursuing my undergrad in USA. There's a culture shock over here. I'm coming from a different country. I might have an inferior English accent while speaking. There might be a lot of these things that you must have undergone." I'm very curious about what your thoughts are on that, because like these would obviously come into picture once you're pursuing your undergrad, right? So
yeah, the one thing was, the one difference I generally felt, it was not particular with me. Like when we are talking about international students, there are certain students who were really excited, who were willing to come USA by their own choice. It means like, so for me, I was one of the person who like I literally argued with my dad that I wanted to go outside. And so for me, it was like pretty special. And there were some people who were just like, I don't know, but it just felt that the family pressured them to go. Or like they were not that interested. Okay. I don't know what was the reason, but like they basically were not that interested. They were not that happy, not that excited and all that. So that was one thing. And so I was a part of like group A who were like, who was so excited and were really like, because like when I first, if you back in India, when we watched all those movies like Ye Jawani Hai Diwani and Zindagi Na Mile Dobara, even Three Idiots, the main concept was like basically, okay, travel the world. It's just so cool. Right. And so that was like one of the things that when I like, why I went outside, where I not continued in India. So now, like when I first came here, yeah, definitely my English is like, I would like to kind of like claim that, okay, I am still the worst speaking English speaking
No, you
person in
cannot.
my
You cannot
group.
compete me. I don't think you can win this competition. I completely hold the first position here.
Because like there were just so many things, like because I knew when I first want to say anything to anyone, so
Right.
like I first need to think, translate, and even like every time in every, like, let's say in 5 sentences, there would be like at least 2 sentences where I don't know a particular word that I want to convey.
हाँ, तो पूरा Google Translate का एल्गोरिथम पीछे से चलता है दिमाग में.
तो पीछे एकदम it was like, oh, okay, so yeah, I want to do this and that. And that was like one of the reason that I feel kind of like inferior to other people. I still remember like in my first year, like in every, you can say, interview and all that thing, I was literally like, I was shaking because I just didn't know how to tell them like I have all the good thoughts that I want to say,
Right.
but I wasn't able
Correct.
to deliver it. So
Yeah.
that was a big shock for me. And I think it was just because of like I had less exposure, like back in my high school, like though it was like an English medium, we all speak like Gujarati and Hindi majorly.
Right.
So and that's the case for like most of the schools. But yeah, so that was one big culture shock. And basically I think it's just a matter of intent. So that's how I spent like my first 3 semesters. I knew I wasn't able to deliver well, but so after first semester, I had this like one particular experience that I like to share with everyone. And I just shared that.
Right.
And then I have like a different experience. And then like after sharing a lot of things, now I just become, kind of more confident in those, like, so now whenever there is any other job interview or something, like I still have that kind of what's it called, like that barrier,
The
but
nervousness.
now
Yeah.
nervousness. But now it's just that, I mean, after spending much time now, I think like my English is improved. That's a good thing. So it's just a matter of like, I think, experiences. Once
Right.
you experience a lot. And I still remember in my first semester, I don't think I even made any good international friends. Like I only made friends who were able to speak good Hindi
Yeah.
and Gujarati.
But acha, so then my question to you would be, so you said how that was like a cultural shock to you, but because our university has a lot of Indians, actually, did that help you in conversing or just living there, or how did it help you anyways, or was it कि नहीं इतना कुछ help नहीं किया था, but how was that part for you?
That was a bit shock for me. Like whenever I look out and when I let's say 10 groups were going on, at least like 2 or 3 of them were like at least from subcontinent.
Right.
They were not Indian, but like from Indian subcontinent.
Yeah.
So that was a shock for me. I'm like, okay, it's not that different place. But like from the very beginning, I actually didn't want it to just, how do I say, just be in that circle of like, okay, though like that's what I did in my very first semester, but I always knew that I'm here for experience.
Correct.
Right.
So
Right.
that was like the main, you can say, like motivation or that drive for me. And that's why like I was just being persistent. Like even though everyone said like, okay, you can't do that, I'm like, I don't know, let's just see. And I knew that I was persistent in everything. Like even if someone says, okay, you can't do that, I'm like, okay, let me think that. Like, and only just because like it was important for me. For example, like taking that senior capstone project in my second semester.
Yeah.
It was like everyone was like, wait, that's not possible. You shouldn't do that. It must be a help for you. And I'm like, I'm interested in that thing. And then why won't I? So that's why I just like go into all the different things.
Yes, I think
Right.
if someone asked me how would I like to define Anirudh, I would say that he's a person who turns the negativity into positivity for himself and turn it into a drive, turn it into a motivation. I think this is something I straight off noticed since the day one, since I met him, and it's still with him,
Yes.
you know. So that is something that's something we all need to actually learn also.
He's the definition of the American dream. I think whoever is acquainted with the American dream, people from inferior background come to US, come to the United States and pursue their dreams. I think I've noticed that. Like whoever within my yourself, Fazal, for that matter, I know how your background was in Oman, and then
Right.
you're going to USA. I think for that matter, even Anirudh right now. So yeah, I think I have met other people who have very similar stories to share
Yeah.
about having some inferior spot in their life, but then trying to reverse it and trying to work remarkably hard. And I think US is that place it hits a sweet spot for making you work harder. I'm not gonna lie about this.
That's
In many
interesting.
ways,
Like back when I came, I didn't know, okay, there was something called American Dream. But yeah, I mean, after coming here, when I watched like a couple of like old movies and all that,
Uh-huh.
then I was like, oh, this is like kind of stuff that what not every, but like some movies and in Bollywood shows, right? A
Yeah.
person who is like coming from a kind of like okayish
Yes.
background still want to like conquer the world and all that.
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
it
was
was fun.
watching this movie called Concussion. Okay, if I'm not wrong, Concussion. I think I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a movie of Will Smith, and he comes from an African background. He comes from Ethiopia, and he goes and researches. I think you'll be very interested in this movie, Anirudh. I think it's a movie about him trying to research on the concussion, on the massive effects of people of professional NFL players. Because they use their head in trying to bang each other, right, and trying to like collide each other and all, right. So while playing
Mm-hmm.
football, and he researched on their. He's an Ethiopian guy. He's a medical professional in USA, and he made it to the zenith of medical professionals in the field of PTSD, in the field of
Uh-huh.
concussion related studies. And it makes your brain smaller, because and you try to act weird, you get into you might get Alzheimer's or whatever. So I think now that we are talking about American dream, I'm reminded of that guy. So
Right.
I would not be surprised to hear something of that sort in the future from the both of you guys. So yeah.
Yeah, I haven't watched this movie. Um, what is your perception of how universities are, and in India especially? How do they differ in India? So let's say if you were right now, I guess you're getting into senior year. You told us, right? If you were at the
Yeah.
same position in India, what is something you would have missed, or what is something you would have gained? What do you think?
So
How?
first
Yeah.
of all, like all of these things would be like just what's my perception, since I haven't experienced what's an Indian
Mm-hmm.
like what's it to be like in Indian college, but like based on my how my friends told me,
Right.
I feel so generally the main difference is like back when I was choosing by outside and I didn't know like what was the system here, but it was just one thing that my friend told me, and he was preparing for JEE, and
Okay.
he was like, even though you will get into, let's say, IIT Bombay,
Hmm.
it won't have that much of like research equipment that you might find on like an average university
Yeah,
in US. So I
correct.
mean,
Yeah.
if you compare it to, let's say, like UP with, let's say, like those top IITs, they have like brilliant students, definitely. But I
Right.
think like the research equipment and all the facilities that US
Mm-hmm.
University provide, that makes a big difference, especially when
Right.
you are
Even the
talking about,
exposure.
yeah,
Even the exposure for that matter, I think US universities are funded by top organizations in the US. Say, for example, Boeing, I think Boeing, just a random example I'm talking about here, can be different. The funding itself, since it's, and even the job opportunities for that matter, is going to be remarkably different, right? Like if I just compare your example with, say, for example, any university, even my example in Supply Delhi, the flexibility is not there with trying to pursue an overload unless you have a certain CGPA above.
Yeah.
But the persistent factor doesn't happen in India. You just have to do. You are just bogged down, and you have to do the things the way it is being told. So yeah, I think go ahead.
I
Yeah,
think
you
it's
think.
it's just I think the one main thing was like, so when you are like, if you are back in India, so the one, like if I were in the main thing, like I would be a part of a flux or like a part of a crowd who is just like doing the thing. But when you go, like when you come here, you are like completely all on yourself, unless you have like really
Yeah.
specific family members that you are living with.
I got it.
And
Yeah.
that just makes you wonder like why like constantly I've had that question, like why am I here, like to make my dreams come true or whatever, like
Correct.
so that is the reason I feel like why, like the main difference between like friends back in India and me over here, like they just can't think constantly every day of like, okay, I am working on, let's say, my dream here.
Right.
And
Oh.
if you are in India, I mean, let's say you ever
The
I get it.
individuality, I think the individualism kind of
Mhm.
puts you to work. I kind of noticed.
But I think
Yeah,
that-
I mean,
yeah,
mhm.
is it also like the family customs and the weddings and the day-to-day society norm and all this adds up, right? To some extent.
those,
Is it-
those don't apply in US. You're trying to say, right? Like those kind of get nullified over there.
yeah, those.
Not
You're
just
on
that, but
your
like
own.
even if you talk about like, let's say like, because let's say friends, I knew like there was some, like I have some friends who just went into university because their friend was there.
Oh,
And
okay.
and the main, I mean, like that's okay. And now I'm just thinking like, if you're choosing for that region, like won't you, I'm not surprised if you will spend, let's say, like a couple of hours every day at chai ki tapri or like whatever spot, whatever cafe you have.
Right.
So
Right.
that's just a part of like India, I would say. Like you are in that connection, like you have all those connections and you I mean, it's not demanding, like they don't demand any time from you, just like that's how your relation is.
Absolutely.
But when you are here totally alone, when you are like still making new friends, at the same time you have that constant question that, okay, why am I here?
Yeah.
I'm here to,
Yeah.
let's say, like build my dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. That keeps pushing
Build
you.
my career, do something that really matters to me.
Yeah.
And that's the main difference, I would say. That makes a pretty big difference when you think of like a average student in India and average student here, but it's international. So yeah.
Right.
One thing I think one last question before we end this podcast, and I think we had one very beautiful insight that you've given the both of us and possibly to all the viewers in the future is that the individualism that you gain out of US kind of pushes you to work, right? So even if you come from an inferior economic bracket, say for example anybody, say for example me, like I did not choose to come to US because I think even Fazal used to suggest me, bro, you could try it for USA, you would really do well over there and all that. Would you still suggest it? Like, I know the pressure of an economic bracket will come into picture, but then you would still make it successful in US because of the pressure itself, right? Would you still suggest, like, say for example, somebody coming from India? What kind of an advice would you give to somebody coming from India? I think if I'm able to frame the question well enough, I think even Fazal could add anything if possible. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Is
No. I
it
think.
okay?
Go ahead.
Is
Go
it
ahead.
like
Basically,
how?
what advice would you give to Indian students? Somebody coming from India, from
Okay, who is
yeah,
coming
who is
USA?
just- yeah, coming to USA in specific, only USA. Yeah.
Okay. Then my main, I mean, there's all this like persistence and all that. And when you know that if you are investing, I mean, if you are coming from a middle class family and if you are investing like this amount of money, like
Correct.
even if like, let's say nobody asks, your dad will ask, right? Like, is it worth it?
Yeah.
Because like
Yeah,
the same amount of money, if I just spend in India, like basically even like my wedding would be over from this amount of money. Like every
that's so
expense till my
Right.
wedding. So I mean, but so again, like it's just that focus on like first define what you really want to do, not just be that person. Okay, we'll just go there and everything would be set. It not work like that. Like you should have that particular drive that you want to do. Think
Yeah.
that particular thing that you want to achieve within whatever time frame you have.
Hmm.
So that would be like so first define that, and then select any country or any different university and think of like how this particular thing will help me. So consider university as a tool, not just like as everything that university will provide everything. Just
Yeah.
consider
Beautiful.
itself as a tool that you can use, and you can use to get knowledge, to get experience. You can get, let's say, opportunities
Right.
and
Yeah,
all that.
Yeah.
that's beautifully put.
Yeah. And yet all the other aspect of life, like making friends, enjoying it, also like it matters. But
Yeah.
if you are going, like if you are I mean, the main question is like why you are going out
Huh.
to study, right? Or to do something. So that's, I think, the main thing. Use university as a tool rather than as a life itself. Or like, yeah.
Right, but a little follow up to that question is because I study at UB, and I feel like
Mhm.
some things, because I didn't knew beforehand, and I had my own personal experiences that taught me things in different ways. Do you think
Mhm.
that students should be always well prepared before they come? They should know A to Z, what everything's going to be, how your meal's going to be, how your courses will be, how your daily life will be? Or do you think people should have no, you should have your own experiences so that you can learn from it yourself? Because each one of us have
Yeah.
different experiences, right? What do you suggest?
So, like, you can't predict or you can't frame everything. Like,
Yes.
so here, whenever so right now I'm applying for those grad school, and in their SOP, they want me to kind of frame what my goals are, how
Huh.
those experience help me, how the particular program at that university will help me even more, and how I will apply it, and what are my future goals. And the one particular thing that I always get stuck is like what I mean, till what end they want to know. So
Right.
if you are planning to coming to US, like the basic idea would be, I mean, I would just frame it for, let's say, like first 1 month, that
Okay.
okay, I should do this particular set of things. But the main idea of this first month is basically to explore, see what the system is, understand it and all. I mean, you can, I'm pretty sure like no one in, even if like I explain to someone from my family who wanted to come in UB, it will be a different experience for him or her.
Of course. Of
So
course.
you can't predict everything.
But I think to come to a point right now, I think I just wanted to call it a wrap today. It was really I think the main takeaway from our discussion, our dialogue between us today was that how, like, the culture shock kind of built upon this certain degree of individualism inside you, that you were able to, that it kind of it develops a lot. I think it makes sense.
Right.
Unless you experience that culture only, you can understand how it is. I think the whole, in retrospect, I think every person is having a story to share. Like, say for example, now a lot of people don't know about US hustle culture, US American dream, that kind of pushes you to work and gets you into a lot of the gets you working hard. Indians don't know that. Indians won't know that, because Indians, it's something. I'm not trying to put the Indian culture down. It's just that the Indian culture is such that the familial bonding is so strong that we are some things kind of, there's certain barrier to. This is just my opinion, and it could be completely wrong, but this is just
Mm.
something I kind of felt, because when you're doing something solo, there's always 10 people, 10 different people you're coming across saying, okay, Abhi, bro, you should not do that. You might screw up your career. But then I
Mm.
think in any other European, or say for example, even US for that matter, Canada, US for that matter, I think if you're doing something solo, you're doing it solo, and there's nobody to comment. I felt that,
Yeah, people will
because
comment, but it won't like reach
it
out
won't
to
be the
your
point
ear.
that it's
Yeah,
stopping you or something, right?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
same.
Yeah.
I think to wrap it up, I just wanted to say thank you for coming.
Yeah,
We had a very good discussion,
it was a great talk.
and we're gonna, once you give us some good news about your grad school applications, hopefully you'll be sharing some other curious story about how your grad school was.
Yeah,
We will be more than willing to have a call then as well.
of course. Of
Yeah.
course.
Sure.
Yeah, hopefully, I hope, hopefully Anirudh keeps in touch with me until then. But
For my grad school, I have this particular theme that I just want to disappear.
right, then
Okay.
we'll see you when we see you only.
No, like I will be in touch with everyone, but like I
Right.
won't say anyone. Like, okay, where am I?
Okay.
Just that mystery. And like whenever I will just surprise everyone. Okay, I'll just come to your house and be like,
That's-
hey, Fazal, it's me.
Right. That's one thing. I think Abhinav would also relate to this. But we love working in secret to some degree. You know. Thank you for joining us early in the morning.
Yeah.
What time is it? What time is it there right now? Is it
Oh, it's
10
10:30.
10:30? Right. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you for
Yeah.
coming. And we definitely look forward to see you next episode, next season, of course. If you would be willing to join. So
Sure.
thanks again. Thanks for coming. Thanks for everything.
Okay then. Take
Thanks for
care, man.
showing up.
Bye.
Thank you so much.